What's going on, everyone? Today we're working on the Miata. Specifically, we'll be working on the lower shift boots. There's two rubber shift boots that protect the shift column from the rest of the transmission below. And these over time can wear out, they can get hard, they can become brittle, or they can even rip. Turns out mine were actually very badly ripped. I first noticed this when I started having some issues with exhaust fumes getting into my car. Now, it turns out I did have a small exhaust leak underneath the car, which I had fixed by a local shop, but it wasn't helped by the fact that my shift boots were torn to shreds. So, to start the process, we're going to first remove the center console. I do have a longer video detailing this process, but simply you remove the 5 JIS head screws, unclip the window connector, and then the center console should just lift right out. We're then going to remove these 4 10mm bolts holding in the upper rubber shift boot. As you can see here, mine was really in rather rough shape. This is a 99 car, so 21 years will do that. So if you haven't checked these out, it might be worth your time to pull up that center console and take a look at them. Underneath the upper boot, there's a lower boot, which is held on by 3 10mm bolts, which you'll just unthread and set aside. The shifter should then just easily lift right out. Next up, we have to remove the old shift fluid from the turret. I found a turkey baster be the best tool for the job. Be careful because you're going to have to kind of angle the baster into the corners here to really get all of the old fluid out. As you can see here, mine was also in really bad condition. There's about 90 cc worth of fluid total inside the shift turret. We can then inspect our shift bushing. As you can see here, mine was still in pretty decent condition, although a bit loose. If you're going to replace it or upgrade it, this would be the time to do it. And then you can go ahead and pull off the rest of the lower shift boot. Remove this plastic ring as well. We're going to reuse this, so set it aside and clean it up. Then give your shifter a good cleaning with some paper towels. Make sure to get into all of the nooks and crannies. Go ahead and get out your new shift boots now. Now, I went with genuine Mazda parts. There are some aftermarket alternatives, but with the small price difference, I decided to go genuine. I found that for many Miata parts, especially rubber parts, going genuine Mazda is really a safer bet. So I went with that, but feel free to use aftermarket if you desire to do so. You'll notice there's a small gasket underneath the lower shift boot, so we'll need to clean up that mating surface to make sure it properly seals. We can then reinsert our small plastic ring. It goes plastic side down. There's a metal retaining ring that goes on the top. I'm then going to shove a paper towel into my shift turret to make sure that no debris gets into it. And then using a plastic scraper, I'm going to go around, just scrape off the old gunk and gasket material. A common point of contention is about what kind of fluid to put in the shift turret. I chose to go with the Ford Motorcraft manual transmission fluid because it's what I use in my transmission. Now, this is actually a closed system. Whatever you put in here will not leak into your transmission, so some people have used alternatives completely fine. I chose to go with this because I had it on hand and I want to be safe rather than sorry. You'll then insert the lower shift boot. The kind of flat part is going to point towards the curved part on the bottom. That's going to be a little tough to get on, so I used a little bit of super lube just to kind of lubricate up the shifter a little bit. Don't want to put too much because then it might get into your turret. So just slather some on, and then the new shift boot should slide on very easily. You can then reinstall the lower shift boot by using the 3 10mm bolts. Make sure to drop one underneath your car, since it wouldn't be a speedy garage video without me losing a bolt somewhere. And then you can finally go ahead and torque those down. These don't need to be super tight, just snug is really enough to keep everything down there. Here I'm using my vintage Craftsman Flying V ratchet that I did a rebuild on. If you want to see me do that, there's a link to the video above. You can then go ahead and reinstall the upper rubber shift boot. Again, You might need a little bit of lubrication to get it to slide down quickly and properly, but just a little bit of finessing and it should get down into position. You can then reinstall the 4 10mm bolts that hold it in place. Again, same thing here. You don't need to go Hulk tight on these. Just get them nice and snug. Last thing we're going to do is reinstall the center console. Make sure to connect that window switch and then use those 5 JIS head screws to bolt it back down. After that, you are all done. I noticed that my shifts were actually much smoother with the new fluid in there, and I also no longer noticed any exhaust fumes or any other sort of fumes coming in from below the car. All in all, this was a rather cheap and easy project. I highly recommend it, especially if you have an older Miata where your shift boots and shift fluid are probably pretty worn. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.